Chris Lee and Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14, presented by Bearded Iris. Alabama has fallen in the NCAA tournament to San Diego State. Incidentally, I'm watching Miami. Oh, boy, under 2 minutes left. So Miami really is about to take down Houston. What is happening in the NCAA tournament?
First time ever.
Wild.
Yep. First time ever. We're not going to have a number one seed in the Elite Eights. Yeah, one seeds, man, just it was not their year apparently. And I mean, we talked about this. This is, I know, not necessarily exactly on the San Diego State Alabama game, but we talked about why are 16 seeds beating ones? It never happened until 5 years ago, whatever it was. And now all of a sudden two have done it in that span when no one could do it for all those years. Well, now you're going to have an Elite Eight without a one seed for the first time ever. And this is all happening in a span of 5 or 6 years, right? And I think it's clear. Like the game is just changing so much. And I think transfers have changed it, NIL opportunity. And I know that's more recent, but if you really just think about how rosters are constructed and just, I think it's a huge, and the game's evolving in terms of how the game is played and what can win you games, in these kind of tournaments. And it's wild, man. But yeah, Alabama joins that group. They're out. So
you're not going to believe you literally just took everything I was about to say next out of my mouth. I was going to say we're going to talk the game, but I have to think, and as much as I don't like the way all these dynamics have come together with the NIL and the portal and all those things, that's what I think this has created parity. I don't know any way around it.
Well, I mean, I think the tournament is always, as we always, like we've said forever, the tournament is still always about matchups. But I think now what you're seeing is that because there is more parity and because teams can, I think it's the best way to put it is like, it's that trickle down effect to where go back to the whatever 90s, right? Or early 2000s, like the same 8 teams were getting all the best players, right? Because it was solely based on recruiting. Like it was recruiting the best players that were out there as freshmen. And then you get them in your program for 2 or 3 years or however long. And it's just, you've got those same guys. And it just became so hard for everyone else, I think, just to catch up, right? But now you can literally catch up in one off season. Like in one off season, you can catch up and do that. And again, I know this is kind of bigger than the game itself, but yeah, like I just think it's started that trickle down effect to where as this goes on year after year after year, not to say that the top teams still aren't getting the best overall players, but you're getting more opportunity beyond that. And I think it's just, it opens up these possibilities in a matchup based tournament where sometimes these teams just run into the team that can sort of take away what they do best. And I thought that's kind of what happened in the San Diego State Alabama game.
So we could have a Final Four that includes Florida Atlantic and San Diego State.
Yeah, or Princeton. So who knows?
And Miami,
right? Miami.
Why not at this point?
What about a Miami Florida Atlantic national championship? How about that?
Oh man,
how about that?
Oh, can you imagine?
And what if Dusty May and Florida Atlantic win, and then Jim Larinaga announces retirement, and Dusty May is hired as the next head coach of Miami? There's my ultimate
all comes full circle
wild scenario.
How are we gonna work Dennis Gates into this?
Well, if Princeton continues to win, that's probably the only way to do it, and that's not the positive way, but we'll see. So,
all right. Well, I presume people actually tuned in for us to talk about Alabama, San Diego State. Perhaps
we have nothing else to talk about the rest of the season. We had to get this out of the way. We got nothing left. We're done. Well, I say that jokingly, folks. We're not done with our basketball coverage. I'm working on something pretty fun that you guys will see soon enough. But we will still have you covered in the off season. But yes, we are done for the actual in season play. So,
well, okay. I want to go here. This is not revisionist history. We did both pick Alabama, but you called me today. Said I'm really nervous about this for Alabama. I think this is a bad matchup. I blew it off. What did you see?
Look, like you said, we do these videos we're running a business here, right? So we try to do these videos as quickly as we can to allow the most people to see it before the game is played, right? That's what you should like. That's the business we're in. And so we don't always have a chance just to have multiple days to dive into a game. So we try to give our preview the best we can to sort of give people an initial baseline to work with, but we do dive into it. I don't want to say we don't. I'm just saying sometimes having that extra day or two can really allow you to go even deeper into the matchup. And so, yeah, when we did our preview, whatever it was, a couple days ago now, I remember I said at the time, I said, look, how can I not pick Alabama? They're the number one overall seed. They've looked great in the first two games. But I said, I also am seeing a lot of opinions out there that I think Alabama, they're not every Alabama fan, but there are some Alabama fans, non Alabama fans, that are looking at this and saying, wow, look at the way Alabama's path has opened up. And that's when I said, I don't know about that. I look at this San Diego State team and I said, what they can do, Chris, and I remember specifically saying this, can they, basically do what Tennessee and or Texas A&M did? And I think that's exactly what you saw tonight. And I text you towards the end of the game. I said, they are working the Tennessee model, but they are working it better. And that is why San Diego State was able to beat Alabama. Let's just go and address this quickly too. I know Alabama fans were not happy with the officiating, all this, but does that, ring a bell? Like that's the same thing we saw in the Tennessee game where it was a very physical game. I said defensively, Alabama's a great defensive team. I said, but don't just look at San Diego State and say, well, they play in the Mountain West. Their numbers are skewed. This was a great defensive team. And we pointed out their path to victory, a team that defends the three as well as San Diego State. And we said Alabama, and I know this, I've already seen this used, and trust me, I get it, but it's not fully accurate this season. I know people want to lean on the Alabama could only win by the three stuff, but as you and I watched Alabama play pretty much every game this season, Chris, let's be honest. There were games Alabama won where they could score in a variety of ways. Unfortunately, when you go 3 of 27 from 3 in the NCAA tournament, and you're playing a great defensive team like this, those good opportunities all over the place just don't come. And that's kind of what Alabama ran into. I just thought the way San Diego State could make this game their style, and we fully saw that, right? Think about how the first half went. First half played completely into San Diego State's favor. Like it was the perfect, I don't want to say it's perfect, but pretty close in terms of the game plan. Now, think about the start to the second half. What happened? The game all of a sudden just the tempo went up very quickly. And who took advantage of that? It was Alabama taking advantage of that. But San Diego State was able to kind of calm things back down, make it more at their pace again. And then the difference with this was this, Chris. They started to hit a couple of those big shots that gave them a little momentum. Now what did they shoot for the game? They didn't shoot a great percentage for the game, right? San Diego State shot a pretty poor percentage overall. Looking at it now, 38.5% from 2, 35% from 3, 59% from the free throw line, turned it over 12 times. But it really was just about the way they defended. Do you remember Alabama getting a ton of easy shots in this game?
No.
I mean, that's kind of what Tennessee did in that game they played. And like I said, I thought there were a lot of similarities in the parallels to those two type games. And I thought going in, if San Diego State was going to win, it was going to have to be that way. And it just turned out to where I just think there were a lot of things that were very similar to that game in Knoxville that we saw. And that's when the more I looked at that, I just thought, man, if they get it this way, I don't love Alabama's, possible chance of getting a win if San Diego State is able to play that way. So, yeah.
Blake, we've talked about this loosely. If there's a way that you're going to beat Alabama, it's going to have to be on a night where Alabama doesn't hit a lot of threes. Sure enough, 3 of 27, 11%. And look, most teams are not going to win games when they are hitting 11% from 3. And Alabama didn't do that a lot this year, but when it did struggle, that was a lot of the formula. And again, if you were going to draw up a script to beat Alabama, it would have looked a lot like that.
Yeah, I mean, I said going into it, I said, look, Brian Dutcher's going to have his team ready with the right game plan, and I mentioned I think the game plan got away from them a little bit early in the second half, but eventually they went back to the plan that was working. And again, I mean, like you said, Brandon Miller had 9 points, right? How many games like this is Alabama going to win with him scoring nine? We talked about their depth, but not with him going 1 of 10 from three. That's just it's probably not going to happen. And so I think, yeah, the more you looked at that, these neutral court games, Chris, sometimes we talk about it, right? I mean, that is you just never know. And like I know like the betting people, when you look at sort of what's working in the NCAA tournaments, it's betting the unders, right? Because you just assume these are going to be lower scoring games. Teams are not shooting as high percentages. And so again, that plays into the underdog's favor, in this kind of matchup. And I think you just again, but I don't want to take anything away from San Diego State either. Alabama missed shots, but like I said, I don't know that Alabama got a ton of just perfect shots either. Now they missed some they usually would hit, but I think San Diego State had the sort of game plan to where they had to take some tough shots too, and that added to that total of missing 24 3-pointers. But yeah, I mean it was. I just thought this was one that, like I told you earlier today, I just said the more I look at this, I probably am still going to pick Alabama. Even earlier today, I would have still picked Alabama because they're the number one overall seed. And, you just looked at it and felt like there was not a lot to change your mind on that. But the more you looked at the matchup itself, the more you could replicate a scenario that's actually worked against Alabama. And I think sometimes when you're trying to figure out how these games are going to play out, you need sort of a reference point somewhere to say, okay, I've seen a team, I've seen this model work against Alabama. And we said there's kind of a variety of ones, although some of them were Oklahoma, right? Just get hot and just make shots, and then the game becomes easier. But you also had what happened in the Tennessee game. You kind of had the one in the A&M. Even UConn to an extent, just with the physicality, I think, of just not allowing them any easy looks and just really locking down defensively. And I just felt like there was a lot of that played out in this game, and for San Diego State, and that's why they won the game. So
Let's get an award from our presenting sponsor, and then I want to ask you about what the future looks like for Alabama basketball, which is kind of a stupid question because there's so much to be settled, but at the same time, maybe perhaps not.
Yep, Bearded Iris Brewing here in Nashville. Well, we had our live show there a couple weeks ago now, before the SEC tournament. Had a lot of fun there with those guys, and you can check out the description below. All the info you need. Head over to their website. Check out their great selection. A lot of great stuff there. We always say unapologetically itself. That is how we view our friends at Bearded Iris. We also view Chris that way, and we will continue to use that tagline moving forward. But yeah, a lot of great IPAs. They got all sorts of stuff there. So be sure to check out our friends at Bearded Iris. And again, just look in the description below. Click on that link there. There's the link to their website, and check them out. You supporting them means you support our channel, and we appreciate all you guys, especially for all the great support we've had this season throughout our in-season basketball coverage. And so, yeah, check out our friends at Bearded Iris.
Were Jim Larinaga and Jim Boeheim twins separated at birth? Just asking. Watching a little
Maybe. I don't
Miami
know.
celebration on the tube here.
Yeah.
All right, Alabama. Look, you figure Nate Oates is going to recruit at a high level. He's going to work the portal. I don't know what the roster is going to look like next year, but I presume it'll be pretty good because he's not going to get outworked probably on either of those fronts.
No, I mean I always say, like, I know we try to wrap up kind of the team seasons, but I think even more so now, it's impossible to know what a team's going to look like the following season outside of just the guys that they have signed. But the transfer portal is just such a big part of it now that I just don't think there's any way to know. We know some of these guys when we know Brandon Miller's headed to the NBA, and so yeah, it's an impossible question, I think, to answer, just because I have no idea what their roster is going to look like. It will likely be built on transfers. A couple guys will come in and play a huge role. It's just the usual blend, I think, that has worked for them. And so, yeah, I mean, look, Chris, I think the one thing we haven't said, this has to be a disappointment for Alabama. It shouldn't. I mean, I know. Look, they had a great season, but I think now that they've gotten to this level, anytime you're the number one overall seed in the tournament, and like we said, I think some people could look at the bracket and say, man, it's opened up a little bit. I think it's going to be disappointing. This one's going to sting because I think, what? I mean, they made the run in this game. What were they up? They were up. What was it? I mean, didn't get the double
I
digits,
don't
but it got
remember.
close, didn't it? Late in the second half at some point or midway through the second
Oh,
half. I don't have
you're
the.
talking about San Diego State.
Well, no, Alabama was up.
Oh, you said late in the second half.
Yeah,
Sorry.
sorry. I mean, I was just kind of pointing out, like, you would think in a game like this where we said we thought offense could be the problem for San Diego State, if they were to fall behind, you would have felt like, Alabama was kind of in a good position, but San Diego State made those shots. I think it was Trammell made I mean, he basically made the run by himself, right? I mean, he had that one run where I want to say he scored, I don't remember how many straight, but to get them back in the game. So yeah, like I know that's kind of adding in to the overall picture, but I think in that way it's just disappointing. And I'm seeing Brian Dutcher on the screen right now. They're showing the inside the locker room thing there, and what's the thing they have in the big square box? Defense and rebounding win championships, and they kind of have their game plan on the board, right? And like that's how they work. I mean, the defense and rebounding. I think it also said like, get back, help, like all those things. They did all those things defensively. And we said you'd have to kind of craft a great game plan defensively to do it. And that's why the more I looked at this game, I just thought Brian Dutcher's the guy that can craft that kind of game plan. And they did, and they made it very tough on Alabama, and San Diego State marching on to the Elite Eight for the first time in school history.
Yeah, Alabama led just under 10 minutes. Mensah hit a free throw at 9:03 to tie it up. Then Seiko hit a three-pointer at 8:39. And I think San Diego State led from there on, although Pringle did hit that big three, I remember. Or no, I'm sorry, it was a layup. Got them 51-50, but never overcame from there. The big one was when Parrish hit the three with 4:35 left, and I think that got him to 6. And I think Alabama never got closer than that again. Yeah.
Yeah, I think here's what I'm looking.
Well, no. There was the final minute. That's right, where they got within 2, and then San Diego State answered again.
But what I was thinking of was Alabama was up 9 with 11 and a half minutes to go, and they had sort of flipped the game at that point, and all the momentum was in their favor. But that's when, all of a sudden Trammell went on a what? I mean, I think he went on a yeah. I mean, he just made some quick baskets and just completely changed the complexion of kind of that lead. And so, yep, San Diego State played pretty well, and I know again officiating will be talked about from the Alabama side and all that, but I just thought that San Diego State had a game plan and they executed it, and that was sort of what it came down to. I think they frustrated Alabama. You could see it, right, Chris? I mean, Alabama was frustrated throughout that game, and again, I think that's what worked kind of in that Tennessee game, and I just you had a team that just really worked its game plan, and so you give them credit for that.
Well, SEC basketball is wrapped up. We'll still talk about it in the offseason. You know what we have in the meantime, though?
What's that?
We have God's gift to sports. We have baseball.
Oh boy, here we go.
Watching, I've got an eye on SEC play in the screen in front of me. Starting to flip the switch a little bit. You got a lot of runs being scored in the league today, seems.
Well,
But
yeah,
anyway,
I mean, I think when you got one team that puts up 26 or 27, I think that helps
in 7 innings. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But yes,
baseball
we
teams
will
score
cover
more
baseball.
than some of the basketball teams are.
Well, maybe we will cover baseball. Chris is obviously our go-to on baseball. We'll have it covered here. But like I said, I've been teasing some off-season basketball stuff that I'm kind of working on that I think will be a lot of fun for you guys. And so, yeah, we'll have it all covered here. Plus football, so we got it all covered. Hit that subscribe button. A disappointing finish to not be covering the Elite Eight in SEC basketball form, but yes, it was a fun season, and the most fun was interacting with you guys and just kind of the usual fun throughout the course of a sports season. And so yeah, we appreciate all you guys for all the support. And again, don't go anywhere because we still got a lot more to do. Basketball, baseball, football. So hit that subscribe button.
He is Blake Lovell. I'm Chris Lee. We are Southeastern 14 presented by Bearded Iris. Thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button, costs you nothing. Hit the like button, that costs you nothing. But those things help us out. Appreciate you being here for us this year. Again, hit those buttons. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again